Nerdy Knitters, welcome to our three-part beginner knitter series where we're working on a series of dishcloths that teach all of the basics of knitting. The first two videos taught us how to knit and purl and cast on and bind off. And now we're going to introduce some basic increases and decreases with this really common dishcloth pattern. Be sure to use the timestamp links down below if you want to jump to any point in the video. You'll need the pattern. You can find the link down below. You'll need some yarn. You can get this kind of yarn at any big box store, or if you prefer to shop online. I like Knit Picks Dishy. That's what I'll be using in today's video. You want to look for a worsted weight. Look for this number right there. Cotton yarn. That's good for making dishcloths. It's nice and sturdy and perfect and absorbent for this. You'll also need your knitting needles. We're using 4.5 millimeter US 7. A tapestry needle to weave in our ends. I'll show you how to do that today. And some snips or scissors to cut our yarn. In the first video, we learned all the basics, so I'm not going to go over how to read a pattern today. We're going to jump right to our dishcloth number 3, adding increases and decreases. Our first instruction right here tells us to cast on 3 stitches. Make sure you check out the first video if you need help remembering how to cast on. I'm just going to do it very quickly right here. Okay, once you have your 3 stitches, it says knit 2 rows. So if you need a refresher, make sure you see the first video for that as well. It goes over all of these basic things. We're not going to go over them again in this video. We'll focus on the new things. There, I have my 2 rows. And then we have this instruction that says INC, which means increase row. An increase in knitting means you are adding stitches to your stitch count. Right now, we have 3 stitches on our needle. That's our stitch count. So our instruction right here, it's got some abbreviations. So don't get frustrated or confused. Just refer to the next page that has the lists of abbreviations. It says K2, that's the first thing beside this increase row. K means knit, so it's telling us to knit 2. So we knit our first 2 stitches just like it says. The next instruction is YO. That means yarn over. All a yarn over is a very simple increase. When you're knitting, your yarn's in the back of your work. To create a yarn over, you're going to bring your yarn to the front, just like that, and up and over your needle. Back to the back and ready to knit the next stitch. Use your finger to hold it there so you don't lose it. And then it says knit to end of row, and in parentheses it says 1 ST, which means stitch, INC, which means increase. So I'm holding my yarn over there and I am knitting that last stitch. That's all I have for the end of my row. I had 3 stitches. Now if you look, I have 4 stitches. So I have increased by 1 stitch. And my next instruction says repeat increase row until there are 35 stitches. So that increase row is knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end. So we're going to keep doing that until our 4 stitches has turned into 35. Or this dishcloth is a little smaller, so if you wanted to make it even wider, then you could keep going until you have even more than 35 stitches. But I'm just going to make a small sample today. So we'll repeat our increase row again. Knit 2. There's that yarn over that we just worked before. So we're going to treat it like a normal stitch. We insert right into the middle of it, wrap and pull it through. We've got a big decorative hole right there. Okay, so we've knit 2. Bring our yarn to the front, up and over and to the back, and hold it there and knit to the end of the row. And now we have 5 stitches on our needle. So we turn our work. And we keep repeating that increase row. Knit 2, yarn over, yarn to the front, up and over that needle, hold it there so it doesn't slip away. There's the last yarn over we created right there. So we treat it just like a stitch, insert into the middle, wrap our yarn, pull it through and drop it off. Now we should have 6 stitches on our needle. So make sure you're increasing by 1 every time. Knit 2, yarn to the front, up and over, hold it there, and knit to the end of the row. Make sure you're finding that other yarn over that was worked in the previous row. The yarn over from the previous row will always be on, when you turn your work, it'll be on the left side. You'll have 2 stitches and then that yarn over from the other row. So let's work some more. Knit 2, yarn to the front, up and over, hold it there, and knit the rest of those stitches. 3 stitches left. That's where our yarn over from the previous row should be, and it's right there. So you'll keep working this increase row until your dishcloth is as wide as you like. Knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end. And on that knit to the end, be sure when you have 3 stitches left, that third one, well, the first one in that set of 3 should be the yarn over from the previous row. It's very common to sometimes forget making that yarn over, and then you miss an increase. So I'm going to work a few more rows and then we'll take a look at this fabric. I've worked a few more rows and you can see those yarn overs create these decorative holes at each side. Here it is in the finished dishcloth. You can see they go off in each direction. So what happens if you forget a yarn over? You don't have to undo all of your work. There's a simple way to fix it. So let's forget one right here. I knit 2. I should have a yarn over right there, but I'm just going to skip it and we'll see what happens. How we can fix that. Work across the row. The thing to remember is those last 3 stitches, that's where the yarn over from the previous row should be. So as you're getting to the end of your row, just always check, make sure your 3rd stitch in from the end should be a yarn over, and this one is, it's right there. So I knit into it, turn my work. All right, I'm at the beginning of a new row, so I will work my yarn over, 2, yarn over, knit to the end. Okay, here's my last 3 stitches. It should be 2 stitches and a yarn over. Uh-oh, there's no yarn over here. I forgot that yarn over. So what I can do, I'll knit this stitch because my yarn over should be right here. It should be 2 stitches, yarn over, and then the next stitch. So what I need to look for is the stitch that I just worked, and the stitch underneath is right here. You can see right there, there's the new stitch I just made, and it's coming out of this stitch right here. So if I wiggle this, I can see this yarn travels all the way over here to this stitch. So this running bar between those 2 stitches, that's where the yarn over should be. So I look at my stitch, and if you have trouble looking for it, just pull on that stitch and look for the bar that's moving. It's this one right here. All you need to do is pop that bar up onto your needle, insert it right from front to back, just like that. So you have a big hole that looks like your yarn over. And there's that yarn over I missed right there. I just pick it up and I work into it just like I had never even missed that yarn over. So if you accidentally forget to yarn over, that's all you need to do. you can just stop and pick it up right where it should be. So knit 2, yarn over, work to the end of the row. Then once you have your 35 stitches, or if you want it wider, you can make it wider. We're going to start on the next instruction. Let me finish my row and we will look at that. This section will introduce a decrease, so we can start to work on the other side of our dishcloth. We've increased it with those yarn overs. We're going to still make yarn overs so we can still get that decorative hole, but then we're going to decrease stitches so we can go back down, subtracting our stitch count. So to do that, our instructions say decrease row, knit 1, and then this one right here, K2TOG, means knit 2 together, and then yarn over, knit 2 together again, and knit 2 end of row. So now it's almost the same, but we're adding in a couple of decreases, and this gives us a 1 stitch decrease. And you will repeat this row, repeat decrease row until 5 stitches remain. So you'll work this row until you're down to 5 stitches. So how does it look? Our first instruction is to knit 1. So we do that. Then it says to knit 2 together. So we're taking 2 stitches and decreasing them to 1 stitch. We insert our needle into the second stitch on our needle and into the first. You can see I'm putting my needle right through both stitches, wrapping my yarn and knitting them together. So we've decreased a stitch. Our next instruction is to yarn over and hold it there with your finger. The next one after that is another knit 2 together. So insert into that second stitch and the first, yarn around, knit them together. So we've decreased a stitch, and then we knit to the end of the row. Our yarn over is there for decorative reasons, and then we have those 2 decreases. So we are slowly going to go back the other way, back down to just a few stitches. You'll repeat this row until just 5 stitches remain according to the next instruction. Once you have 5 stitches, you'll have 1 more row to work. And it's very simple. A knit 1, knit 2 together, and a knit 1, which brings you down to 3 stitches. And then you can bind off those remaining stitches. And after you've bound off, you'll want to finish all of your dishcloths. We'll weave in our ends. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then block to finished measurements. Blocking just refers to how you're going to care for your garment. If you're going to wash it or dry clean it or whatever, you'll usually want to check what the yarn ball says. This one says machine wash, tumble dry low. So that's exactly what I'll do. All of my dishcloths can be thrown right in the washing machine and the dryer. And I don't block them out to measurements, but if I had a finished garment, I would spread it out to the measurements that I want it to be. But with a dishcloth, you don't really need to do that. So to weave in ends, it's very simple. You have a few methods you can use. I'm going to use this little sample here. One simple thing to do is just to catch those stitches, those little bumps, and put your needle underneath them, just like that. And weave it right through. Then maybe go in a different direction, catch another few bumps, and weave it through. And you'll want to do that for about an inch or so. You can see this one leaves a little trail, so you can see where it is. But if you really want it to be invisible, another method for weaving in ends is called duplicate stitch. You just follow the path of the yarn. All the yarn does is it goes in a big loop, just like that. So we just follow that. So I'm going to follow this. I'll start here, right with this one. And I can see this yarn is traveling up and around this way. So I'll go under here and up that way. You just pick a section and you follow it. Now it's going back down around this way and down here. All you have to do is follow the path of the yarn and duplicate that stitch. And when you do that, it's going down this way. You can see it's harder to tell where I just wove those ends in. This one, it's darker, so you can't see them very well here, but that one I can see the trail of it. This one I don't see very much because it follows the path of the yarn. So that's two options for weaving in those ends. And when you're done, you'll have some new dishcloths that you can use in your kitchen. So don't forget to grab your pattern. You'll find the link down below. And make sure you click subscribe if you like to get nerdy with your knitting.